First contact, final warning. The Valtherium conclave chamber stretched impossibly high, its crystalline dome capturing the light of 3 suns and fracturing it into 1,000 shimmering patterns. Ambassador Noah Reeves stood at the center of the chamber, hands clasped behind his back, deliberately controlling his breathing. This was humanity's first official diplomatic mission to the Galactic Conclave, an alliance of 17 spacefaring species dominated by the ancient Valtherium Empire. The human emissary may now address the conclave, announced High Lord Zirax, his voice resonating through the chamber. The Valtherium Lord's skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns, a physiological feature that had evolved as a communication mechanism, but now served primarily to intimidate lesser species. Noah stepped forward, the neural translator at the base of his skull tingling as it processed the 17 different languages being whispered among the delegates. Esteemed members of the Galactic Conclave, Noah began, his voice steady, despite the weighted gravity field the Valtherium had subtly increased around the human delegation's position. Another intimidation tactic. Earth extends its hand in friendship and cooperation. Though we are newcomers to interstellar travel, having achieved faster-than-light capability only 30 years ago, we bring unique perspectives and technological innovations that we believe would benefit all. A ripple of dismissive chittering echoed through the chamber. High Lord Zirax's skin flashed in patterns that the translator identified as amusement and contempt. "We have observed your kind for centuries," Zirax responded, leaning forward on his crystalline throne. "Your species has spent more time fighting itself than reaching for the stars. What could you possibly offer a civilization that mastered interstellar travel when your ancestors were still discovering fire?" Noah had been briefed extensively on the Valtherium's tendency toward arrogance. Their species had indeed been among the first to achieve spaceflight, nearly 15,000 years before humans. This historical head start had fostered a deeply ingrained sense of superiority. "With respect, High Lord," Noah replied, activating the holographic display embedded in his formal attire. "What we lack in experience, we compensate for with innovation." The display expanded, showing technological growth curves for various species. Humanity has compressed technological advancement that took other species millennia into mere decades. The Kuravathar representative, an avian being known for their scientific acumen, tilted their feathered head with newfound interest. "These advancement rates exceed known developmental patterns." "Precisely," Noah nodded. "Earth doesn't seek recognition based on our territory or military capacity, but on our potential as trade partners and scientific collaborators." He gestured, changing the display to show Earth's unique resources and biological compounds. For instance, our planetary biosphere has developed several enzyme chains with properties we believe could revolutionize medical treatments for several conclave species. As Noah continued his presentation, he noted with satisfaction the changing demeanor of several delegates. The Tresic ambassador, a crystalline entity who had initially appeared dismissive, now leaned forward with apparent interest when Noah mentioned viral resistance compounds exclusive to Earth's deep ocean trenches. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, part of the human security detail, sent a subtle message through Noah's neural implant. Several delegates requesting private audiences. The Kuravathar and Tresic especially interested, but Zirax doesn't look happy. Indeed, the High Lord's bioluminescence had darkened to deep crimson, a warning sign according to their cultural briefings. Noah maintained his diplomatic smile, but mentally flagged the concern. The Valtherium Empire had maintained its dominance through carefully controlled technological exchange and strategic subjugation. A species advancing too rapidly represented a fundamental threat to their established order. The initial session concluded with unexpected progress. 3 species had requested private negotiations, and even the typically aloof Mergoid collective had expressed interest in Earth's unique approach to quantum computation. "This went better than expected," Sarah commented as they were escorted to their diplomatic quarters. "But Zirax's reaction worries me." Noah nodded almost imperceptibly. "The Valtherium don't like wild cards, and that's exactly what we represent. He glanced at the ornate timepiece on the wall, actually a sophisticated scanning device mapping the station's security systems. Tonight's ceremonial acceptance will be telling. That evening, the grand reception hall of the conclave gleamed with bioluminescent decorations. Representatives from dozens of worlds mingled, many approaching the human delegation with newfound curiosity. Your presentation was enlightening, Ambassador. The Tresic delegate's crystalline form refracted the ambient light as they approach. Though I feel compelled to warn you, rapid advancement often provokes conservative responses from the conclave leadership. We appreciate your concern. No replied carefully, but Earth comes in peace. We seek only mutual prosperity. Few species have challenged the established order as directly as your presentation did today, even unintentionally. The Tresic continued, voice lowered. Be cautious at tonight's ceremony. Before Noah could press for clarification, a resonant tone echoed through the chamber, signaling the commencement of the formal acceptance ceremony. The assembled dignitaries moved to their designated positions with practiced precision. Ambassador Reeves, High Lord Zirax's voice flowed smoothly as he approached the central platform. Your presence honors us. Few species have demonstrated such remarkable diplomatic aptitude in their first conclave appearance. Noah detected something in the High Lord's tone that made the hairs on his neck stand up. The neural implant flagged unusual security movements around the chamber's perimeter. The honor is humanity's, High Lord, Noah replied, ascending the ceremonial platform. We look forward to a productive relationship with the conclave. As he took his position at the center of the platform, Sarah's voice came urgently through his neural link. Noah, their security grid is reconfiguring. Energy signatures shifting. This isn't standard protocol. Before he could respond, a subtle vibration passed through the floor, followed by an unnatural stillness. The ambient sounds of the gathering ceased entirely. Noah attempted to turn toward his security team, but found himself immobilized, held in place by an invisible force field. A remarkable application of stasis technology, Zirax said, circling Noah's frozen form. All pretense of diplomacy had vanished from his tone. It selectively targets non-Valtherium biosignatures. Noah could move only his eyes, watching as similar fields had ensnared his entire delegation. Only Sarah appeared partially mobile. Her military-grade neural overrides fighting the stasis effect. The conclave has deliberated on humanity's position in the galactic order, Zirax continued, withdrawing a ceremonial blade from an ornate scabbard. Your acceleration curve threatens stability. Your adaptability defies control. Your potential concerns us. Noah found he could still speak, though barely. The United Earth government will interpret this as an act of war. Earth will understand its proper place, Zirax replied. Behind him, ceremonial cameras activated, their feeds connecting to transmission points across the conclave and to the human diplomatic vessels in orbit. This demonstration will ensure appropriate humility from your kind. With deliberate slowness, Zirax raised the blade. Noah's eyes remained fixed on the transmission cameras, defiant even in immobility. You misjudge our nature, High Lord, Noah said, his voice carrying clearly despite the stasis field. Humanity doesn't break under pressure. We evolve. The blade descended with ceremonial precision. As consciousness began to fade, Noah's gaze remained locked on the transmission cameras, knowing his final act of defiance would reach Earth. Across the chamber, Sarah broke through enough of the stasis effect to activate her emergency protocols. 3 of the diplomatic staff managed to reach the emergency shuttle bay during the ensuing chaos, carrying with them the complete neural download from Noah's implant and irrefutable evidence of the Valtherium treachery, broadcast across the stars. The diplomatic shuttle Hermes limped into Earth's orbit 2 weeks later, its hull scarred by Valtherium weapons fire. Inside Earth Central Command, Fleet Admiral Elena Vega watched the unedited footage of Noah's assassination for the 3rd time, her expression betraying none of the cold rage building within. They wanted us to see it, Sarah Morrison said, her arm still in a regenerative cast. Wanted Earth to see it. Admiral Vega nodded once. The footage is being contained for now. Global panic won't help our response. Noah knew. Sarah gestured toward a quantum data core. He had me carry a backup of his neural implant data. Said it was standard protocol, but it wasn't. Vega picked up the small device. Noah suspected this might happen. He sent coded warnings in his diplomatic updates. Within the station's secure conference chamber, representatives from Earth's unified government sat in stunned silence as the unaltered footage played. When it ended, United Earth President Quan broke the silence. The Valtherium ambassador to our Proxima Centauri colony claims this was a regrettable cultural misunderstanding. They expect our immediate surrender and acceptance of vassal status. Their warships have moved to positions near our borders, added Defense Minister Rodriguez. They've given us 72 hours to acknowledge Valtherium authority. General Yamato slammed his fist on the table. We should deploy everything we have. Show them humanity won't be intimidated. Admiral Vega remained standing, her calm at odds with the emotional current in the room. That's exactly what they expect, an emotional, disorganized response from what they perceive as a primitive species, an excuse to eliminate us entirely. She activated her security clearance, transforming the room's holographic display. The familiar image of Earth's modest defense fleet vanished, replaced by something entirely different, a vast array of military vessels hidden throughout the solar system. Project Pantheon was initiated 25 years ago, Vega explained as stunned council members absorbed the revelation. When our first deep space probes detected signals from the conclave, we understood the potential threat. Every public vessel, every civilian advancement has had a military parallel developed in secret. The display shifted again, showing stealth ships disguised as asteroids, massive weapon platforms concealed within mining operations, and advanced warships hidden inside what the public believed were corporate space stations. We have vessels with phase shift technology reverse-engineered from recovered alien craft, Vega continued. Quantum disruption weapons and combat systems that operate beyond the predictive capabilities of Valtherium tactical analysis. She inserted Sarah's data core into the central console. And now, thanks to Ambassador Reeves' foresight, we have this, complete schematics of their defensive networks, command protocols, and communication vulnerabilities. Noah didn't just die for us. He armed us. President Quan studied the tactical displays with growing comprehension. What are you proposing, Admiral? Operation Thunderclap. Vega expanded the star map to show Valtherium territory. We go dark. Completely dark. Shut down all transmissions. Recall all human vessels from alien space. Let them think we're cowering in fear. Sarah, despite her injuries, stood to join her at the display. Meanwhile, our stealth fleet deploys throughout their territory, mapping targets, placing quantum disruptors at key nodes. When we strike, we hit critical infrastructure simultaneously across 50 light-years of space before they realize we're capable of such coordination. The Valtherium have ruled through fear for millennia, Vega concluded. They'd forgotten what it means to face an enemy with nothing to lose. The Council voted unanimously. Within 6 hours, Earth went silent. All communication with conclave worlds ceased. Civilian vessels were quietly recalled under communications blackout protocols. At the Proxima Centauri outpost, the Valtherium ambassador smiled thinly as human communications fell silent. His report to the High Lord was triumphant. The primitives retreat in fear, as expected. Beneath the lunar surface, the first wave of stealth vessels slipped away from their hidden cradles, their phase shift drives leaving no trace as they accelerated toward Valtherium space. Operation Thunderclap had begun. Operation Thunderclap. Commander Area Chen's stealth vessel, the UES Nemesis, drifted silently above the Valtherium outpost on Helios IV. Through the viewport, the massive installation sprawled across the moon's cratered surface, its quantum communication spires reaching toward the stars like accusatory fingers. Orbital defense grid mapped and analyzed, reported Lieutenant Keto, her fingers dancing across the tactical interface. Shields cycle every 32.8 seconds, creating a 0.9-second vulnerability we can exploit. Arya studied the holographic display of the outpost. 6 months of silent observation had transformed her. The loss of her mentor, Ambassador Reeves, had calcified something inside her, replacing grief with purpose. Her previous role as diplomatic security chief seemed like a lifetime ago. "Deployment status of the other strike teams?" she asked. "All 19 teams report ready," her XO confirmed. "Synchronized strikes will commence on your mark across all targeted outposts." Arya nodded, checking the chronometer. Earth had maintained total communication silence for half a standard year. The Valtherium, believing humanity cowed into submission, had grown complacent. Their military vessels had relaxed patrol schedules. Their leadership had returned to internal politics. Their planetary shields operated at minimum capacity to conserve energy. "Final check on the package," Arya ordered. Lieutenant Commander Jackson approached with a quantum-shielded case. QD missiles primed and locked on all 23 targets within this system. Similar packages are deployed across all operation zones. Quantum disruption technology had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, a revolutionary weapons system that targeted the fundamental particle bonds of specific materials, causing them to destabilize at the quantum level. Unlike conventional weapons, QD strikes left organic life untouched while devastating technology. The perfect weapon against an empire that had integrated its consciousness with its machines. Communications blackout remains in effect. Arya confirmed. "Yes, Commander. We're operating on autonomous protocols. The Valtherium have no idea we're here or anywhere in their territory." Arya allowed herself a cold smile. "Initiate final countdown. Transmit to all teams. Operation Thunderclap commences in 5 minutes." Throughout Valtherium space, 19 identical conversations were taking place on 19 invisible vessels, positioned at strategic points across the Empire. For 6 months, Earth had appeared broken, a primitive civilization that had overreached and been put in its place. The illusion was about to shatter. Inside the Helios IV Command Center, Sub-Commander Vexlar reviewed the routine security reports with board detachment. The human problem had been solved months ago. Their pathetic species had withdrawn all contact after the public execution of their ambassador, a necessary example for other upstart civilizations with delusions of importance. "Sub-Commander," a junior officer interrupted. "We're detecting unusual energy fluctuations in the upper atmosphere." "Meteorological anomalies," Vexlar dismissed. "The moon's transition to perihelion often causes ionospheric disturbances." "But, sir, these readings are concentrated around our defensive grid nodes and—" The lighting failed abruptly, plunging the command center into darkness before emergency systems activated. Around them, warning klaxons began to wail. "Report," Vexlar demanded, his skin flashing anxiety patterns. "Defensive grid offline. Communications array non-responsive. Quantum core experiencing catastrophic desynchronization." Outside the command center windows, Vexlar watched in horror as their primary defense cannons dissolved into swirling clouds of component particles, the quantum bonds holding their molecular structure together suddenly unraveling. "This is impossible," he whispered as the quantum disruption spread systematically through their most critical systems. No enemy ships were visible. No conventional weapons had been fired. It was as though their technology was committing suicide. Above the outpost, Arya watched the QD missiles complete their precision strikes. The Valtherium installation, once bristling with defensive capabilities, now stood effectively neutralized. Not a single life had been lost, yet the outpost's ability to communicate, defend itself, or send distress signals had been eliminated in less than 90 seconds. "Phase 1 complete," Cato reported. "Moving to Phase 2. The UES Nemesis decloaked, its stealth systems disengaging as it descended toward the outpost's main landing bay. Across Daltharium space, 19 other Earth vessels were doing exactly the same thing at precisely the same moment. "Open a channel to the outpost," Aria ordered, straightening her uniform. Visual only. Sub-Commander Vexelar's panicked face appeared on the main view screen, his bioluminescent patterns cycling through emergency signaling colors. "This is Commander Aria Chen of the United Earth Fleet," she announced calmly. "Your defensive capabilities have been neutralized. Your communication systems have been disabled. You are currently isolated from the rest of the Valtharium Empire." "This is impossible," Vexelar sputtered. "You're a pre-conclave species. You don't possess this level of technology." "You made a fundamental error in your assessment of humanity, Sub-Commander," Aria replied. "You mistook our diplomatic approach for weakness, our technological discretion for limitation, our patience for fear." As she spoke, tactical teams from the Nemesis were already boarding the outpost, securing key control points without firing a single shot. The Valtharium personnel, accustomed to technological superiority, found themselves helpless against an enemy who had systematically stripped away their advantages. "I am transmitting terms of surrender," Aria continued. "You have 5 minutes to comply before we escalate to Phase 3. At the Valtharium homeworld of Valth Prime, High Lord Zirax was in the midst of a conclave address when the first reports began trickling in. Communication outages were spreading across the Empire like a virus. Outposts going silent, one after another. Defense installations suddenly non-responsive. "What is happening?" he demanded as his advisors rushed into the chamber, their skin patterns broadcasting distress signals. "My lord, we're under attack," his chief strategist reported, voice trembling. "The humans, they're everywhere. Simultaneously." "Impossible," Zirax roared. "They're a single-system species with rudimentary technology." "The reports indicate otherwise, my lord. They've deployed weapons we've never encountered before. Our defenses are simply disintegrating." A communication officer burst into the chamber. "My lord, priority transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies throughout conclave space." The chamber's main view screen activated automatically. The face that appeared belonged to United Earth President Quan, her expression resolute. "High Lord Zirax," she began without preamble. "6 months ago, you executed our ambassador to demonstrate Valtharium power. Today we respond in kind, not with barbaric assassination, but with the systematic neutralization of your military capability." The display split to show live feeds from across Valtharium space, outposts under Earth control, defense platforms rendered inert, warships drifting powerless. "As we speak, Earth forces have disabled 76% of your military infrastructure," President Quan continued. "We have achieved this without taking a single Valtharium life, a courtesy you did not extend to our diplomatic mission." Zirax's bioluminescence had faded to ashen gray, the biological response of a Valtharium facing existential terror. "Your empire has stood for 15,000 years, through intimidation and technological suppression," Quan said. "That era ends today. The terms of armistice are being transmitted to your remaining functional communications arrays. You have 1 hour to respond." The transmission ended, leaving the conclave chamber in stunned silence. Zirax turned to his advisors, skin barely illuminated with shock patterns. "How?" he whispered. "How did they achieve this?" Across Daltharium space, the answer was becoming clear. While appearing to cower in submission, humanity had methodically infiltrated every corner of the Empire. Their stealth technology had allowed them to map defense systems, identify vulnerabilities, and position strike teams with precision. Their quantum disruption weapons, technology the Valtharium had believed impossible, had rendered conventional defenses irrelevant. On the UES Dauntless, Admiral Vega watched as reports flowed in from across the operation zone. 98% of primary targets neutralized. Minimal resistance encountered. 0 human casualties. "The Tresic ambassador is requesting an audience," her communications officer reported. They claim to speak for several conclave species who wish to reevaluate their relationship with Earth. Vega nodded. As expected, the Valtherium maintained their position through perceived invulnerability. Once that perception shattered, the Kiravather have already transmitted scientific exchange protocols, Sarah Morrison added, now serving as Vega's chief of staff. Apparently, they've been waiting for someone to challenge Valtherium dominance for centuries. Vega activated the ship's secure communication channel. Patch me through to Commander Chen. Aria's face appeared on the screen, the secured Helios IV command center visible behind her. Admiral, Phase 2 is complete across all sectors. The Valtherium are offering no meaningful resistance. Excellent work, Commander. And the data retrieval? Complete, Admiral. Ambassador Reeves would be satisfied. Aria's expression softened momentarily. We've recovered their entire technological database, including the developments they've been suppressing from the wider conclave. As Noah suspected, they'd been artificially limiting advancement across multiple species. Then it's time for Phase 3, Vega decided. Begin technological dissemination to all cooperative conclave members, prioritizing medical and environmental applications. 53 minutes after President Quan's ultimatum, High Lord Zirax transmitted his formal acceptance of Earth's terms. The Valtherium Empire, which had dominated galactic politics since before humans had invented writing, had capitulated without Earth firing a single conventional shot. 1 month later, Noah Reeves Memorial Hall hosted the first gathering of the reformed conclave. Representatives from 23 species assembled to sign the Terran Accords, a new framework for interstellar cooperation based on technological exchange rather than suppression, mutual defense rather than intimidation. Admiral Vega stood at the observation window, watching the delegates arrive. A holographic statue of Ambassador Reeves stood at the center of the hall, his final words inscribed at its base. Humanity doesn't break under pressure. We evolve. He would have enjoyed this, Sarah said, joining her at the window. He saw it coming, Vega replied. Everything he did, every diplomatic overture, every technological hint, even his final defiance, was calculated to position us for this moment. Below them, the Tresic representative approached the Earth delegation, crystalline form gleaming in the hall's light. When your ambassador spoke of human adaptability, we didn't truly understand, the alien said. Now we do. The Valtherium rule through stagnation. Earth offers advancement. That's the fundamental difference, Vega noted, watching the proceedings. The Valtherium saw other species as threats to be controlled. We see them as partners. As the signing ceremony commenced, signals went out across what had once been Valtherium space. Quantum communication relays, now repurposed for peaceful exchange, transmitted educational and medical data to worlds long denied such advancements. Research teams composed of multiple species began collaborative work on interstellar transportation networks. Cultural exchange programs flourished. In the Helios system, Commander Chen watched from the bridge of the Nemesis as Valtherium citizens received advanced medical care from Earth physicians, treating genetic conditions their own leaders had never bothered to address. Was it worth it? Lieutenant Cato asked quietly. The risk we took. Aria considered the question, remembering Noah's final moments of defiance, and the transformation those moments had triggered. The Valtherium expected us to either submit or lash out violently, she replied. They never considered a third option, that we might redefine the very nature of power in this galaxy. She gestured toward the viewscreen, where ships from a dozen worlds now moved freely through space that had once been tightly controlled. They murdered our ambassador to show their strength, Aria said. We responded by showing a different kind of strength altogether. Noah would have called that poetic justice. As Earth's sun set on the first day of the new conclave, humanity had achieved what Noah Reeves had envisioned from the start. Not merely a place among the stars, but a fundamental shift in how civilizations interacted across the void between them. The Empire's arrogance had been its undoing, and humanity's seeming weakness had proven to be its greatest strength. The echo of one ambassador's defiance had transformed the galaxy.